Hey man, there comes a moment in every man's life where he feels the shift in energy. A woman who once lit up when you walked into the room now barely looks up from her phone. Her good morning texts turn into silence. Her affection, once overflowing, dries up like it never existed. And you start asking yourself, what changed? Did I do something wrong? Did I not give enough? But here's the truth. Most men never understand until it's too late. Her value for you isn't lost because you stopped trying. It's lost because you started trying too hard. Somewhere along the line, she stopped seeing you as the prize and started seeing you as the one begging for her attention. That shift is brutal because when a woman no longer values you, it doesn't matter how much history you share, how many sacrifices you've made, or how deeply you love her. She will treat you like a man she can live without, and that realization cuts deep because it makes you question your worth as a man. But don't worry, there's a way to flip this entire situation, and it starts with one simple trick. Most men, when they feel this shift, fall into panic mode. They beg, they over-explain. They write long texts, pouring out their heart, hoping she'll wake up and see the man she's losing. They start overcompensating, buying gifts, canceling plans, trying to remind her of the good times in a desperate attempt to win her back. But here's the irony. Every one of those actions only confirms what she already feels, that you're no longer the strong, grounded man she once admired, but a man afraid of losing her. And women don't value fear, they don't respect desperation. In fact, it repels them. The more you try to convince her to value you, the more she devalues you. It's a vicious cycle that drains men of their dignity and leaves them wondering why no amount of effort seems to change her coldness. But here's the truth. Effort without respect is wasted energy. So what do you do when she doesn't value you anymore? Do you fight harder? Do you double down on proving your worth? No. That's the mistake weak men make. The trick, the move that flips the dynamic, is silence. You stop rewarding her lack of appreciation with more of your energy. You stop explaining yourself to someone who's already made up her mind. You stop begging for validation from a woman who's chosen to withhold it, and instead you pull back. You go quiet, you let the absence of your energy speak louder than any words ever could. Because here's the thing, words can be twisted, argued with, dismissed. But silence forces her to confront her own behavior. Silence forces her to notice the void you leave behind. And women can ignore a man's words, but they can't ignore the weight of his absence. When you go silent, you disrupt the script she's been writing in her head. She expects you to chase. She expects you to argue. She expects you to beg. That's the pattern she's seen in weak men before you. But when you don't play the role, when you don't give her the reaction she's prepared for, something happens. Curiosity, confusion, even discomfort. Suddenly she's not sure where she stands with you anymore. And that uncertainty is powerful because women are addicted to certainty. They want to know they have you wrapped around their finger. They want to feel like they can test your boundaries and you'll keep showing up. But the second you break that expectation, the second you withhold your attention, you flip the frame. Now she's the one thinking about you. Now she's the one wondering, why isn't he chasing? Did I go too far? Is he done with me? And that is where value is restored, not through chasing, but through withdrawing. Understand this, a woman doesn't lose value for you because of who you are. She loses value for you because of how you respond to her. If you reward disrespect with attention, if you reward indifference with effort, you train her to see you as less. But when you go silent, when you pull back, you're no longer rewarding her lack of value. You're saying without a word, I am not here to beg. I am not here to convince. My presence is earned, not demanded. And that silent boundary hits harder than any lecture you could ever give her. Because deep down, women know the truth. Men who have options don't beg. Men who know their worth don't chase. And when you stop giving her what she took for granted, she'll feel the shift in her bones. She'll realize she's dealing with a man who doesn't fold, who doesn't panic, who doesn't hand his value over to someone who can't recognize it. And that realization alone is often enough to flip the script in your favor. Now, here's where most men get tripped up. They think silence is just another tactic to win her back. They think if they pull away for a week, she'll suddenly realize what she's lost and come running back with tears in her eyes. That's the wrong frame. Silence is not about manipulation. It's not about baiting her into missing you. It's about reclaiming your frame, reclaiming your self-respect, and putting the weight of your presence back where it belongs. When you go silent, you're not waiting for her to call. You're not sitting by your phone, checking if she noticed. You're shifting your focus back onto yourself, your mission, your purpose, your growth. Because here's the truth. If you use silence as a tool to manipulate her, she'll sense it and it will backfire. But if you use silence as a reflection of your standard, that you do not give energy to someone who no longer values it, that's when it becomes powerful. Think of it this way, your attention is currency. Every time you text her after she ignores you, you're paying her for devaluing you. Every time you argue, you're depositing energy into her bank while draining your own. And just like money, once you give it away recklessly, people stop respecting its worth. But when you tighten your grip, when you stop giving your attention freely, suddenly it becomes valuable again. Silence is how you raise your price. It's how you remind her and yourself that your presence is not cheap. And women, whether they admit it or not, are wired to value scarcity. What's always available gets overlooked. What's rare becomes irresistible. And when you stop giving her what she thought she'd always have, your time, your validation, your energy, she starts to wonder if she miscalculated your worth. This is why silence works better than words. You could sit her down and explain 100 times how much you've done for her, how much you love her, how much effort you've put into the relationship, and it will fall on deaf ears. Not because she's cruel, but because words don't hit the emotional world she lives in. Silence, on the other hand, hits her in the only place that matters, her feelings. She starts to feel the emptiness of your absence. She starts to notice the void you once filled, and in her emotional reality, that absence speaks louder than logic ever could. She might not even be able to explain it, but suddenly, she's restless. She's questioning herself. She's replaying your interactions in her head, trying to figure out why the man she thought would always be there suddenly isn't. And that confusion creates attraction. That uncertainty breeds curiosity. That silence reminds her of the value she overlooked. But let me warn you, this trick only works if you truly mean it. If you break your silence too soon, if you cave in and chase the moment she pulls away, you destroy everything. Because women notice patterns, and if your silence is just temporary, she'll see it as weakness. She'll know she only has to wait you out, and eventually you'll come crawling back. That's why silence isn't just a tactic, it's a lifestyle. It's a reflection of your new frame as a man who values himself first. When you go silent, you're not waiting on her. You're moving forward. You're improving yourself. You're building a life so solid that whether she comes back or not doesn't even matter. And ironically, it's when you stop caring about the outcome that she starts caring again. Because women don't value men who put them at the center of their world. They value men who stand in their own world and invite her to join if she's worthy. And here's the kicker. Sometimes when you go silent, she won't come back. She won't suddenly realize your worth. She'll stay gone. And that's not a failure, it's a blessing. Because if silence doesn't pull her back, it means she was never truly invested to begin with. It means her value for you was so far gone that no amount of effort could have restored it. And you need to know that truth, because too many men waste years of their lives trying to fix what was never real. Silence exposes the truth. If she values you, she'll feel the absence and come back with respect. If she doesn't, she'll fade away and free you to invest your energy in someone who actually sees your worth. Either way, you win. Because silence isn't about saving her, it's about saving yourself. It's about cutting through the illusions and forcing reality to reveal itself. And once you embrace that, you'll never again waste energy chasing someone who doesn't value you. Here's the thing, most men don't realize, women live in cycles of emotion. Their perception of you, their love for you, their interest in you, it can rise and fall like the tide. And if you chase them every time the tide goes out, you'll exhaust yourself swimming against currents you can't control. Silence is how you stop fighting the tide. It's how you plant your feet in the sand and say, I'm not moved by your storms. And that stability is exactly what separates boys from men. Because when she sees that her emotional withdrawal doesn't shake you, when she realizes that her coldness doesn't panic you, she's forced to re-examine her own feelings. Suddenly she's not sure if she's testing you or losing you. And that uncertainty can reignite the very attraction she thought she had lost. But this only works if your silence isn't an act. It has to come from a place of true groundedness. Now, let's get real. Silence isn't easy. It's one of the hardest things a man can do, because every instinct in you wants to fix it. You want to call her, text her, remind her of what you had, remind her of who you are. But silence demands discipline. It demands that you value your peace over your need for reassurance. And that's where men separate themselves. Weak men chase closure. Strong men create it by walking away. Silence forces you to face yourself, to realize that your worth isn't tied to how she feels about you in this moment. And once you embrace that, once you learn to sit in the discomfort without scrambling to fix it, you discover something powerful. You don't need her validation to know your value. And that shift alone changes everything. Because when you no longer need her, that's when she starts to question if she still has you. Another thing about silence, it creates contrast. When you're always available, always explaining, always trying to make things work, your presence becomes background noise. She doesn't notice it. But when you withdraw, when your voice disappears, when your energy vanishes, suddenly there's a contrast. She remembers the attention she used to get. She recalls the warmth she once felt. And now, in its absence, those moments shine brighter. This is why silence often brings women back. Not because they suddenly learned a lesson, but because they feel the emptiness that only your presence used to fill. And human nature is simple. People only value what they fear losing. If she never fears losing you, she'll never value you. Silence introduces that fear without you lifting a finger. But remember, this trick isn't just about her, it's about you. Silence is the mirror you hold up to your own soul. It asks you, why are you giving so much energy to someone who doesn't value it? Why are you pouring into someone who treats you like an option? When you go silent, you stop drowning in her world and start rebuilding yours. You find time for your passions again. You reconnect with your brothers, your goals, your purpose. And when you do, you start radiating the energy that first attracted her in the beginning. The energy of a man on his mission, not a man orbiting around her emotions. Ironically, it's when you return to your path that she feels drawn back into your orbit. Because women don't fall in love with a man who makes her his whole world. They fall in love with a man who builds a world she wants to be part of. Here's the brutal truth, man. If she doesn't value you anymore, you only have two paths. Either you degrade yourself trying to convince her, or you elevate yourself by walking away from the disrespect. Silence is how you choose the second path. It's how you step back and let her reveal her true colors. If she comes back with respect, you know the value was still there. It just needed to be reminded. If she doesn't, you've just saved yourself from years of being taken for granted. That's the beauty of silence. It's both a filter and a weapon. It filters out the ones who were never meant for you, and it sharpens your own strength as a man. And once you've mastered silence, once you've felt its power, you'll never again waste your breath begging someone to see your worth. You'll know it, you'll own it, and that's when the game changes. The hardest part about silence isn't the quiet itself, it's the battle inside your own mind. When she doesn't value you anymore, and you pull back, your mind will start screaming lies at you. It'll tell you that she's forgetting you, that she's moving on, that you're losing her forever. And in that panic, most men break. They rush back in, sending that late night text, calling just to check in, or posting things online to grab her attention. But that's exactly how you lose the power of silence, because silence only works when it's complete. It's not about punishing her, it's about proving to yourself that you can detach, that you can let go of someone who doesn't value you without losing your identity. And once you master that, you become untouchable. Because the man who can sit in silence is the man who cannot be controlled. Women are emotional creatures. They live in a world shaped by how they feel, not necessarily by what's real. That's why when you argue with her, when you beg, when you try to convince her of your worth using logic, it never works, because you're speaking facts into an emotional storm. But silence bypasses all that. Silence doesn't argue. Silence doesn't explain. Silence doesn't defend itself. It simply exists. And in that existence, it forces her emotions to do the work. She starts to feel the absence. She starts to question her decision. She starts to wonder if she made a mistake. And those emotions often hit harder than anything you could ever say. That's why men who master silence never chase validation. They let the woman wrestle with her own feelings while they remain grounded in truth. But let's be real, not every woman deserves to come back. Silence is not a trick to win her over, no matter what. It's a tool for clarity. It reveals whether she actually values you deep down or whether she was only using you for attention, comfort, or convenience. If your silence makes her reflect, respect, and return with changed behavior, that's a sign there was something real. But if your silence makes her vanish without a trace, that's the truth you needed to see. She never valued you in the first place. And while that truth stings, it also frees you. It saves you from wasting months or years trying to resuscitate something that was already dead. In that way, silence is not just powerful, it's merciful. It spares you from illusions and forces reality to reveal itself. This is why I call silence the reset button of masculinity. Every time you pull back, when she doesn't value you, you reset the frame. You stop playing her game and force her to play yours. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't just apply to relationships, it applies to life. Silence teaches discipline, it teaches control. It teaches you that not every battle is fought with words, and not every problem is solved by chasing. Sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. And when you master that, you gain a kind of power most men will never understand. The power to let go, the power to walk away, the power to demand respect without ever having to raise your voice. That's the essence of masculine strength. Calm, steady, immovable. So when she doesn't value you anymore, don't argue. Don't beg. Don't fall into the trap of over-explaining or proving yourself. Try this simple trick instead. Silence. Let your absence do what your presence couldn't. Let her feel the void you leave behind, and watch what happens. Sometimes she'll come back with respect, realizing the weight of the man she almost lost. Other times she'll disappear, and in doing so, she'll give you the gift of truth. Either way, you win. Because silence protects your dignity, your peace, and your frame as a man. And once you embrace it, once you understand its power, you'll never again waste your life trying to convince someone to see your worth. You'll already know it. And that unshakable confidence will carry you further than any woman's fleeting validation ever could. There's something liberating about silence that men don't understand until they live it. At first, it feels like torture, like holding your breath underwater while every part of you is screaming to come up for air. But then, after a while, it shifts. The noise in your head quiets. The craving to reach out weakens, and you realize something you should have known all along. You don't need her to validate your existence. You don't need her texts, her attention, her approval to feel like a man. You were whole before her, and you'll be whole without her. And that realization is the true prize of silence. It doesn't just shift her perception of you, it shifts your perception of yourself. You stop being the man who's waiting to be chosen, and you start being the man who chooses. But silence isn't just about self-discovery. It's about shifting the energy of the entire dynamic. See, when she no longer values you, she assumes she has you locked in. She believes you'll always be there, no matter how she acts, no matter how little she gives. But the moment you go quiet, the moment you stop feeding that belief, she feels something she hasn't felt in a long time. Risk. Risk of losing you. Risk of being replaced. Risk of realizing that maybe, just maybe, she misjudged the kind of man you are. And risk, brother, is the seed of respect. Women don't respect what's guaranteed. They respect what they could lose. And silence is the reminder that you are not a permanent option. You are a man who can walk away. Now here's the irony: when you finally go silent, when you truly detach, that's when women often come back. But by the time they do, something inside you has shifted. You no longer see them the same way. The spell is broken. You realize that the woman you thought you needed wasn't a goddess. She was just a human being. Flawed, impulsive, sometimes careless with your heart. And in that clarity, you stop worshipping her. You stop putting her on a pedestal. You see her for what she really is, not what your emotions painted her to be. And that perspective is priceless, because whether you take her back or not, you'll never again fall into the trap of overvaluing someone who undervalues you. That's the permanent strength silence gives you. It breaks the illusions, and let's not sugarcoat it. Sometimes silence ends things for good. She never calls, she never comes back, and the relationship dissolves. But even in that ending, you've won. because a man who can end things with dignity is far more powerful than a man who clings until he's discarded. When you end things on your terms, when you refuse to beg for someone's presence, you walk away with your head high, your respect intact, and your focus sharp on building a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's validation. That's the kind of strength that attracts higher quality women, better opportunities, and deeper peace. Because you've proven to yourself and to the world that you will never again trade your self-worth for temporary affection. So when she doesn't value you anymore, remember this: the trick isn't in words or arguments or desperate gestures. The trick is silence. Step back, withdraw your energy, let her feel the weight of your absence, and then watch what happens. Either she comes back with renewed respect, or she disappears and makes space for something better. Either way, you win. Because silence is more than just a strategy, it's a declaration that you are a man who refuses to beg, refuses to settle, refuses to lose himself chasing someone else's approval. You are the prize, you are the reality. And the moment you understand that, you'll never again worry about whether a woman values you, because you'll already know the truth. The right woman will never need silence to see your worth. She'll value it from the start, and until she arrives, you stand firm, grounded, and unshakable in who you are.